Okay, good evening, everyone. We're getting excited. Baruch Hashem, we're starting a new book, Gemara Berachot. This book is the first, when you're looking at the Shas Gemara, which will explain what it is, it's the first book. So we're starting on page 1 of Gemara, of really Mishnah. It's very exciting. The book of Berachot, the name of it is Berachot, which the topics will discuss all of the Berachot that we say. Berachot on food, Berachot, let's say in our prayers, and then related to that is going to be all of the prayers that we say. Amidah, Shacharit, Mincha, Musaf, Arvit, all of the laws, all of the times. Shema Yisrael, all of the laws of Shema Yisrael, when we say it, what time we say it, the Berachot we say before, the Berachot we say after, the process of the Tefillah, and then there'll be a lot in this Masechah that has to do with different brachot that we say and different laws of the prayer and daily items. We get some laws of tefillin in here, we get some laws of Birkat Hamazon in here. It's a Masechah that has a lot of practical applications in our daily life. Okay, so we're going to get started. Before we get started, just give a quick understanding of what is a Mishnah. Okay, by raise of hand, who can confidently say they know what a Mishnah is? Or you know what, let's make it more specific. Who can say that they know the author of the Mishnah? Who is the author of the Mishnah? Okay, we have 4, 5, 6. So, okay, maybe 10. Okay, so about a quarter of the room are saying they know the author of the Mishnah. So let's go ahead and say who the author of the Mishnah is. What is the Mishnah? Let me explain. We have two Torahs. One is called the Torah Shebichtav. That is the book, the 5 books of the Torah that we read from on Shabbat. 5 books of Moses, if you will. That's Torah Shebichtav, that which is written. But there are commentaries on that Torah that had to have been given from the very beginning. I'll give you an example. It says in the Torah you have to put totafot on your body. You have to put totafot between your eyes. Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu gives the Torah to people and says, put totafot between your eyes. What would you ask if you were in that class? Moshe Rabbeinu, sorry. What is totafot? What's he going to say? Oh, good question. I have to look it up. No, he's going to say, okay, I'll explain it to you. It's tefillin. You're going to say, what's tefillin? It's a black box. What's in that box? What's it made out of? What direction does it have to be? What's this? What's that? It has to be something on your arm. What has to be in your arm? These were things that they were doing. All of these discussions is what you call Torah Sheba'al Peh. Torah Sheba'al Peh is what we call the verbal Torah, or really the oral tradition. After it's something that was commentary given from person to person, generation to generation, verbally. Okay, so it was always kept verbal and it wasn't written. You with me? I'm going to stand up for a little bit. Okay, the angle is going. Oh man! All right, we're gonna have to get a tripod and get it higher up. Maybe get multiple angles. No, it's all good. It's all good. Actually, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. Okay, Torah Shebichtav is written. Torah Sheba'al Peh is not written, and it wasn't meant to be written. It wasn't meant to be written. Okay, here we go. That is better. Thank you. It wasn't meant to be written until there was a point in history where they started to record it. What happened? What happened is that it's hard to keep track of everything without writing it down. If to know all of the laws of the Torah, all of the oral tradition, the Torah Sheba'al Peh part of it, without writing it down, after some time, the generations it was becoming more difficult to keep the tradition. So there was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, right? He was Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, he was the president, he was the head of the Jewish court, he was very wealthy, he was very politically involved, he built relationships with the Romans and others around the world, a very good position. He said, we have to have this project where we record the oral Torah, we write it down. Understand that up until him, it wasn't done. When did Rabbi Yehuda Anasi do this? When did he write the oral traditions down? Approximately the year 200. If you find different sources, they say it's around the year 187. I'm talking about the Common Era, the year 200 of the Common Era. So we're talking about not even 2,000 years ago. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi recorded the oral traditions down. What did he call this book? Very good. He called this book the Mishnah. So now if I ask you, what is the Mishnah? The Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda Anasi's recordings of the oral tradition. and he did it around the year 200 of the Common Era. The time period of now, it's not that he said what the law is always. He was recording discussions that was going on, discussions of the Tanaim, that was the rabbis from his time period and before him. That was codified in the Mishnah. Just one thing I have to say about the Mishnah, then we're going to jump into reading the first Mishnah of Torah Shabbat. Here's one thing. When he wrote it very shorthand. He didn't put all of the details in there. It's sometimes not clear what he even means. And it's almost like the way I like thinking about it is, he wrote it in like index card style. When you write an index card, if you're studying for a test, anyone here is still in school? When you're studying for a test, okay, your index cards, do you photocopy the textbook and put it on the index card? If you're taking that with you to the test, then maybe one of those kids used to do. Whatever, I wouldn't. I wouldn't need to. But yeah, but if you're taking notes, you take it shorthand. You take bullet point notes. Here's 1 point. Here's 1 point. Here's this point. Now, if you give that to someone who doesn't know the subject, what are they going to say? They're going to say this is gibberish. I don't understand what you're saying. Over here, you wrote one thing. Over here, you wrote something else. Yeah, because over here I was talking about this subject. Over there, I was talking about that subject. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote down the Mishnah in short form, index card format, and everyone was like, "Hi, this is so comfortable. This is so good. Now I won't forget." And they know exactly what he was talking about because they were familiar with the discussions. And now it's just being on the index card. It's an easy way to remember. But what happened? Over years, people forgot. People said, "I don't know what he's saying here. I don't know what this means." And so there would be discussions. And those discussions weren't recorded. Those discussions were like, "Well, what do you think he meant here? What do you think he meant there?" Until finally, about 300 years later, they had rabbis that said, "Look, we got to write down explanations of his index card." The explanations of his index card is what we call the Gemara. That is what we know as the Talmud, and that was written around the year 500 of the Common Era. So now we're going to jump into the Mishnah. The Mishnah, you should know that this is recordings of the oral tradition, and it was recorded around the year 200. And then after that, we're going to take this Mishnah and open it up and explain every single line and say, no, there's this opinion, that opinion, this opinion, that opinion. Why'd you say this? How'd you say this? And you're going to see all of the critical thinking that goes on in the Talmud. When we study Gemara, you need to bring in your energy. Right? Why? Because there's critical thinking involved. I'll say this story and then we'll start. The famous story, which I've said in the past, is when someone's like, "Oh, what is this Gemara? Gemara doesn't say much. What's in there?" They're rabbis, you're sitting all day studying laws. Gemara, it can't be too difficult. He says this to a rabbi. The rabbi says, "No, okay, you know what? Let me ask you a question. There's two guys. They go down the chimney. You guys heard this before? The chimney one? From me or from someone else? From a child's book. Oh man. Okay, whatever. But at least I made it somewhere. I mean, in this child's book. So the two guys go down the chimney. One of them comes down the chimney and he's fully dirty. The other one comes down the chimney, very clean, completely clean, as though clothing came out of the cleaners. Which one showers? Remember, the rabbi is saying this to the person who was like making fun of Gemara. He's saying it's very simple. The one that's dirty showers, the one that's clean doesn't shower. He says, no, you're wrong. Why? Because the one that's dirty looks at his friend and says, well, if he's clean, I must be clean. No need to shower. And the one that's clean looks at his friend and says, well, if he's dirty, I must be filthy, even though I don't see it, so I'm going to shower. So the exact opposite of what you thought. And he's like, okay, I think I understand. He's like, okay, let me ask you a question. Down the block, there's a chimney. Two people go down the chimney. One comes through, very dirty. The other one comes down, fully clean. Which one showers? And the guy says, okay, I got it. The clean one showers, the dirty one doesn't. He says, no, you fool, why did that happen? The one that's dirty sees he's dirty, he showers. The one that's clean sees he's clean, he doesn't need to shower, so he's clean. Okay, but you just told me that. He's like, hold on. 2 houses down, there's another house. 2 people go down the chimney. One of them goes through, he's dirty. The other one goes through, he's clean. Which one showers? And the guy's like, I don't know. He's like, I know you don't know because you don't know. Then let me explain to you. They both shower. Why? The one that's dirty says, I'm dirty, I got to shower. The one that's clean says, look, I look clean, but my friend's dirty. I'm probably dirty. I got to shower also. So they both shower. And he's like, down the block, there's another house. And 2 people go down the chimney there. And when one of them is dirty, one of them is clean. Which one showers? He's like, I give up. He's like, I'll tell you, neither of them shower. Why? Because the one that's clean says, I don't need to shower. I'm clean. The one that's dirty says, well, if he's clean, it can't be that bad. I'm not going to shower. And then he says, there's another house down the block. He's like, Rabbi, you went through every option. He's like, 2 people go down the chimney. One is dirty, one is clean. Which one showers? He's like, I don't know. And he says, they don't fit through the chimney. Can't even fit. What kind of a question is this? The question doesn't make sense. Okay? So this idea is like a joke, but this is really what the Gemara often does. It takes one question and breaks it down into every single possibility and even more. And when you're studying Gemara, a lot of what it does, this is not why we do it, but when we study Gemara, what happens is your critical thinking gets sharpened. You don't go into a discussion just assuming one side is right. You always challenge everything. And that's how you develop your critical thinking, and that's how we come to understand the words of the Torah. So with that, let's begin. 20 minutes in. It took a little bit longer than I wanted, but let's begin, okay? Mr. Eli Delamani joined us for the last year. You get your certificate if you can please pass it. Okay, Baruch Hashem, let's go. Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah. I will be sharing my screen so people on the Zoom could see. It's in the recording, and also everyone could follow along. If you're following in the art scroll, we are on the first page of the Gemara. That's an art scroll 2A1. That's the very beginning. And also I'll share it on the screen, okay? Here we go. Me'ematai. This is the beginning of the first Mishnah of Shas. Me'ematai. From when? Me'ematai korin et Shema be'arvin. From when do we start reading Kiryat Shema at the nighttime? Okay? So right now, the Mishnah is assuming that you already know that you have to say Shema. You already know that you have to say Shema at nighttime. And you already know that there is a time that starts. And now it's saying, well, what time does that start? What time can I start saying Shema at night? There's a lot of assumptions here, which the Gemara is going to break out. But right now it's saying from me'ematai means from what time, korin et Shema ba'arvin, do we begin reading Kiryat Shema at night to fulfill our mitzvah of saying Shema? The Gemara answers, I'll tell you when. Misha'a she'akohanim nichnasim le'echol b'trumatam. At the same time that Kohanim are allowed to start eating their terumah. Okay, there's a lot of assumed knowledge here. Mr. Azizi, are you our only Kohen? I know I have Ronnie Aziz on the Zoom. Oh, we have Kobe Kohanim. Okay. Ronnie, oh my goodness. Usually Ronnie's the first one on the Zoom. Okay, fine. Ronnie. Okay, so tonight, sorry Ben, tonight we're gonna go with Ronnie. Ronnie, Kobe, you'll get your turn. But Ronnie is our Kohen tonight. So Ronnie, you're a Kohen. The Torah says that if I have a field and I grow grain on my field, I have to give a portion, how much? About 2% to the Kohen. I give it to whichever Kohen I want. Tonight I pick Ronnie. So I go to my field, I'm cutting my wheat, I give 2% of my wheat to Ronnie. Ronnie goes and he bakes, what do you bake? You make some like barekas or something, and you have it with your food, and you're ready to eat this. But there's something important. Since I'm giving this to the Kohen as what's called terumah, as a gift of the Kohen, it's like a tax, it's kadosh. The Kohen can only eat it b'kedusha, which that means is if he was impure for whatever reason, he needs to go to the mikveh. Normally, when we think about the laws of mikveh, you're thinking about ladies, when in the time that after they get the period, after they become nidah, they're going to have to go to the mikveh. That's how we have it traditionally. It's the ladies that have to go. But a Kohen, before a Kohen eats terumah, or really before people eat from things that are kadosh, they need to go to the mikveh, okay? So once they go to the mikveh, at nighttime, they're allowed to eat from their terumah. So let's say he's impure. During the day, he could go to the mikveh. And once it becomes what's called se'et kochavim, which is nightfall, which I'm going to define all of this. But once it becomes nightfall, or what's called se'et kochavim means the time that the stars come out, which is what we're going to translate as nightfall. Then the Kohen is allowed to eat the terumah. Yeah. You got it. Okay, there we go. You know, it'd be cool if we give everyone an iPad. Just everyone has their own iPad. You come in, it's right there. All right, we could think about that. What? Might be worth it. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, give everyone. So okay, you hear that? I was saying we should get an iPad. Josh was saying, what's $800 for every person here? Okay, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. I want one iPad. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Look, I would commit. He's not going to check you afterwards. You just take your iPad and then Yeah. Okay, good. Baruch Hashem. All right, so let's continue. What time does a Kohen, is he allowed to now eat his, okay, hold on. What time is a Kohen allowed to eat from his terumah? The answer is nightfall. So you see what the Gemara did here? The Gemara says, what time can I start reading Shema at night? It says the same time that the Kohen could start eating his terumah at night. And it's like, okay, what time can the Kohen start eating his terumah at night? The Gemara is going to say, oh, that's nightfall. So I have an easier way of saying this Mishnah. What time can you start saying Shema at night? Nightfall. You could just say Tzeta Kochavim, nightfall. So why do you say, let me pin it to some other piece of knowledge that you probably don't know? The answer is we're going to see in the Gemara how, because the Mishnah was written very shorthand, and part of it being shorthand is that he wanted to pack in as much information as possible. So even as he's telling you what time you could start reading Shema, he's pinning it to something else, so that if you didn't know that, now you're going to learn 2 in 1, because you're going to ask, I don't know, what is this? And then you're going to get your answer. Okay, the Mishnah is not going to be completely exhaustive with all of the answers. It's meant to serve as a memory, as a way to remember things. And so sometimes it's not going to write it in the clearest way because it's not its purpose. It's not its function. You get it? Okay, here we go. What time can you start saying Shema at night? Our Mishnah tells us the time that the Kohanim can start eating the Trumah, which I'm telling you, as we'll see, is Tze'et HaKochavim. The time the stars come out, which we're going to translate as nightfall. I'll explain exactly when that is. But now let's get to the ending time, okay? So we say Shema at night. Until when? What's the ending time that you could say Shema Yisrael? Now the Gemara says, Ad Sof Ashmora Harishona. You could say the Shema Yisrael starting from nightfall until the end of the first Ashmora. Ashmora, let's translate it as stage. Oh, you want to see the English? Okay. All right. Here we go. Ad Sof Ashmora Rishona, until the end of the first stage. So what we're going to see now, and again, the Gemara is going to say, what are you talking about? Why don't you just tell me a time? Again, the Gemara is going to try to teach you multiple things at once. What we're going to say now, let me just explain, is that there are 3 stages of the evening. Let's make it simple. Let's pretend sunrise, let's say the day starts at 6 a.m. and the day ends at 6 p.m. Okay? It's not always like that, but let's just make it easy so that I could explain. 6 to 6. Then your night goes from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., right? If your day goes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., your night goes from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. There's 3 stages. Your first stage is your first third of the night, which would be from 6 to 10 p.m. Then it would be your next stage of 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And then you'd have your third and final stage of the night, which is 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Okay? So what this line is saying, the time of Shema is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Starting from when the Kohanim are allowed to eat their Trumah, which is nightfall, until the end of the first stage of the night, the first watch of the night, which we'll explain what that means. This is now, we're going according to the opinion that says there are 3 stages. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Guess what? That's only one opinion. That's the opinion of a rabbi named Rabbi Eliezer. Yeah. We're gonna get into that, right? So the moment in this case, 6 p.m. is the moment of Ben Hashmash of Tzeta Kochavim. In the example that I gave, it's the beginning of night. So that moment before it is like considered day, after it is considered night. That moment is the start of night. And the truth is, it's not exactly how it works. There's a stage in between, and that stage in between is what we're gonna get into. It's really called twilight, where let me get into it as we get into a couple lines. We're going to see it. Okay. So the first opinion of when is the ending time of Shema Yisrael is the first third of the night, the end of the first third of the night. The Chachamim say ad chatzot, until midnight. So again, what he's saying is no, you could go a little bit longer until halfway through the night. So again, if my night is from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., then this opinion is saying 12 midnight. Right? Because that's right in the middle. The first opinion says you could say Shema from 6 to 10. The other one says, no, get 2 more hours. You could do it until 12.
Summertime.
Correct. Okay, so that's why they didn't give 6 p.m., 6 a.m. They're telling you the time of midnight. How you calculate midnight is you go from sunset to sunrise, right in the middle is midnight. So if this time of year, you could check. If this time of year, sunset tonight was like 8:30, sunrise is like 5 a.m., or it's even earlier, it's like 4 a.m., it's going to be a little bit more skewed. It's actually going to be pretty close, but yeah, it'll be a little bit after what we have 12 p.m. Midnight is not 12 a.m. when we're talking about it here. What is midnight? Explain to me. What is midnight when our Mishnah says midnight? The middle of the night. What is the night? From the time the night starts until the night ends. The night starts at Set HaKochavim. The night ends at Netzach Hama. So now this is where it's going to get complicated because we're going to have to define all these things. I have to hold off the questions. Let me get through the Mishnah because I think I might answer a lot of these questions. Then we'll come back after the Mishnah and we'll explain. The second opinion says you have until midnight for your ending time of Shema. Rabban Gamliel Omer, the third opinion says Ad Shi'aleh Amud HaShachar, until dawn. So there are three opinions of when you could say Shema at night. So again, let me clarify. There is a mitzvah to say Shema every night. Now, if I want to say it tonight, I can't start at 3 p.m. You got to start after nightfall. And when can I say it until? When is the latest? In other words, do I have to do it by 10 o'clock? Can I do it until 12? Or can I do it at 3 a.m.? Makes a difference. Am I allowed to set and say, you know what, let me take a nap and I'll say Shema after I wake up? Are you allowed to do that? Well, if my time to say Shema is until the morning, then yeah, take a nap at 12. Put in your alarm at 12, at 1, wake up and say Shema. You can do that if the time of Shema goes all the way through. But if the time of Shema ends up to the first third of the night, you can't take a nap and then say, I'm going to do it afterwards. Make sense? These are the three opinions. Okay? This third opinion says until Amud HaShachar. Now, let me do this story. And then after we do the story, we're going to show a picture and we're going to address the question. Now, we had three opinions in the Mishnah. The first one was Rabbi Eliezer. He said until a third of the night. The second opinion was the rabbis, Chachamim. The term Chachamim is a generic term. That means the rabbis. What do you mean the rabbis? The one who argued with him was also a rabbi. Rabban Gamliel is also a rabbi. So the rabbis is talking about the majority. Majority opinion is until midnight. You have one minority opinion that says until the first third of the night, and you have another minority opinion, Rabban Gamliel, that says until the end of the night, what's called dawn. Amud HaShachar is dawn. You can say Shema all night long until dawn. So here's the funny part. Rabban Gamliel, his boys went to Arusi one time, and it seems like their weddings were like ours. Is it because, I don't know, I've been to an Ashkenazi wedding, I was home by 9 p.m. before. Yeah, for the Mishari wedding, 9 p.m., you'd be lucky if the chuppah started. Even though they tell the rabbis it starts at 6. When the rabbis show up, 9 p.m. is when the chuppah starts. And then dinner will come out. You'll be lucky if dinner comes out before midnight. You'll be lucky. And then you got to eat your steak at midnight. And then it's like, all right, well, time to go. And then you wake up 4 hours later, get to the office. Baruch Hashem. You can see I love the setup of our weddings. So it seems like they had weddings like ours. What happened? Rabban Gamliel, his boys went to a wedding one night, and they didn't pray Arvit. So guess what time he came home? He came home after midnight. They weren't home at 9 p.m. They came home at 2 a.m. So see where we fall. 2 a.m. and they didn't say Shema yet. 2 a.m. you already passed midnight. So the rabbis, which is the majority opinion, which is who we really should follow, the majority opinion, the rabbis, it's too late to say Shema. But Rabban Gamliel, you still have time. You have until dawn. So now, the children of Rabban Gamliel, who is a minority opinion, come to him and say, hey, Dad, we came home. One day, there was a story where his sons, Rabban Gamliel's sons, came home from a party. Amrulos, and they told their dad, look, Karinu et Shema. We didn't read Shema. We didn't say Shema yet. So what are they saying? They're saying, according to you, Dad, we're allowed to say Shema until dawn. So we could say Shema now. We could fulfill that mitzvah of Shema now. But according to the rabbis, it's too late. So are we doing the mitzvah now? So this is what he says. Amar lahem, he says to them, Im lo ala amud hashachar, if it's not dawn yet, chayavin atem likrot, you have to read it. If it's not dawn yet, meaning if we haven't hit my deadline yet, you're still required to read it. is Rabban Gamliel going against all of the other rabbis? Is he going against them? He says no. And this is not the only time the Chachamim do this. Chachamim, ela kol ma she'amru Chachamim ad chatzot, anytime that the Chachamim say until midnight, mitzvatan ad she'eleh amud hashachar. The mitzvah is actually until dawn. The rabbis are building in a buffer. So when they tell you until midnight, the truth is, according to the Torah, that law that you could do that mitzvah up until dawn, but they are bringing it early. They're proceeding and they're saying, no, you're done by midnight. Why? Because they know that if I tell you have the whole night to do it, you're going to take care of other things. You're going to take a nap. You're going to binge watch some Netflix, and then 4 a.m. before you go to sleep, you'll say, "I say Shema Yisrael." But what happens? You fall asleep when you wake up. All of a sudden, it's the next day. So they said you have until midnight. This is what Rabban Gamliel is saying. The rabbi said until midnight. So this way, when you're gonna make sure that you keep things moving. You know, you chop. You're not gonna waste time. And he's gonna give a couple examples. Hekter chalavim ve'irvarim. And again, you don't need to get too bogged down by the details, but I'm just gonna give you examples. There's a requirement that during the day there are sacrifices brought on the Beit HaMikdash. Those sacrifices that are brought during the day, if there's any leftovers and there's things that have to get done during the night, they have to clean up. They have to burn the fats and they have to burn the limbs of the Korban Olah. All of that, the halacha is until midnight. But Rabban Gamliel is saying is mitzvatan ad she'eleh amud hashachar. Actually, you could go past midnight and do it all night long. Similarly, there are certain korbanot in the Beit HaMikdash. There are certain sacrifices that part of it is eaten. And very often, it has to be eaten by midnight. That's the law. But what he's saying is, no, you're allowed to eat it until the morning. So what he did was he just gave us 3 examples where the rabbis say the deadline of something is midnight, even though you have like another 6 hours until dawn. You get it? So the examples are Shema Yisrael, where the rabbis say you have to read your Shema of night, you have to do it by midnight. Rabban says, no, you have the whole night. Then, burning the fats and limbs of any of the sacrifices that's left over, the rabbis say until midnight. Rabban says, no, you really could do it all night long. And the last one is, there are certain korbanot that have to be eaten. Korban Pesach has to be eaten by midnight. You could do it all night long, says Rabban Gamliel. Okay, but then if that's the case, so why were they lying to you? Im ken, lama amru chachamim chatzot. If that's the case, why did the chachamim say until chatzot? The Gemara says, kedei leharchik adam min ha'avera, to distance a person from sinning. What we're getting introduced to now is something very important that we're getting introduced to, is that there are laws from the Torah. And then you have a layer of rabbinic enactments or rabbinic requirements on top of the Torah. It's not a Torah law. It's not a Torah law that they have to read Shema by midnight. But they are going to set that standard because they don't want you to break the Torah law, which has to be done by dawn. It has to be read by dawn. So there are times, and they're not going to lie to you and say this is a Torah law. And that's what Rabban Gamliel is saying. Rabban Gamliel is saying is this is a rabbinic law, but they're making it a law. So we have to read it by midnight. But in a situation where you did it because you were at a wedding and you forgot, you still have to read it when you come home. Okay? So I promised that I'm going to show some pictures. With that, there was a few questions. Evan, you had a question? Or?
Oh, yeah. My question was...
Again, just because of the size of the group, we're going to have to keep the questions on topic.
Yes, I was going to ask regarding the different opinions, and one of the rabbis said there's both those 3 stages, and then there's another rabbi said it's like midnight. But does that mean that, is this 3 stages thing like a widely agreed upon?
We're going to discuss it in the Gemara. No, it is machloket. One says there's 3, one says there's 4. Why say it that way? We're going to discuss it in the Gemara. Yeah.
So Rabbi Eliezer here is just like crazy strict, like.
Okay, no. Okay, so your question is, what is Rabbi Eliezer doing here by coming and saying it so much earlier, and why do we completely disregard it? Okay, so you're actually asking a good question. Let me just say 2 parts to your question. Number 1, Rabbi Eliezer isn't crazy strict, but we're going to see how they're going to have different interpretations of what the Torah requirement is. So we're going to explain it right now. There's different interpretations of the mitzvah of Shema. Let me just explain. Does it say that when does it say in the Torah that you have to say Shema Yisrael? Does anyone know what's the source that we have to say Shema Yisrael at night? Very good. You heard that? Very good. We say it in the Shema Yisrael. It says in the Shema Yisrael, "V'dibarta bam," you have to read these words. These words are the words of Shema Yisrael. That we say in the Shema Yisrael, it's like very meta. Shema Yisrael says, read the Shema Yisrael. And then what? Then I read the Shema Yisrael. So the Shema Yisrael says you have to read the Shema Yisrael. V'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha beveitecha, when you're sitting in your house. U'lechtecha baderech, when you're going on the way. U'shochbecha, when you lie down. U'kumecha, when you stand up, when you arise. So you have to say Shema when you're lying down, when you arise. It doesn't say at night and at day, but it says when you lie down and when you arise. So now we're going to see, we have to define the times that you have to say Shema when you're lying down. Define the times when you arise. So Daniel, question. How do you understand that you have to say Shema when you lie down? What does it when you lie down mean? You say, oh, very good. You're going to go to sleep. You called Rabbi Eliezer crazy strict. You're crazy strict yourself. Because the way you said it is when you're going to go to sleep, meaning when you're going to bed. Rabbi Eliezer says people don't go to bed late, and they go in the night at the beginning of the night. We're not talking about the times when they had cell phones. I know your cell phones, you can't go to sleep before 2 a.m. But when they didn't, what would you do? It would get dark. A couple hours after it gets dark, you go to sleep. The way you explained it is the way Rabbi Eliezer explains it. B'shochbecha, when you lie down. So that means I'm going to say Shema during the first couple hours of the night, during the first third of the night. Because by the end of that first third of the night, people are asleep. By the first third of the night. But Rabban Gamliel says it doesn't mean when you go to sleep. It means all the while that you're sleeping, or all the while that people sleep. When do people sleep? All night long until Amud HaShachar. So that's why you have Rabbi Eliezer saying you have to say Shema the time when people begin to lie down. When people lie down, and Rabban Gamliel says no. It's as long as you're lying down all night long, you can say the Shema Yisrael. And which one do Chachamim hold like? What? Well, they hold in between. Why do they hold in between? Because they really hold all night long. They hold like the opinion that's all night long, but they're creating a fence. So there's really two opinions. The first opinion says you should say Shema as you lie down, which means as you're going to lie down. The beginning of the night, we're calling out the first third of the night. And then the other opinion says, no, it's all night long, all thirds of the night. The first third, second third, third, all of it you could say Shema. And Chachamim say, I agree with you in theory that that's what the Torah says. That's what the Torah means when it says when you're lying down. But I just want to, I don't like these deadlines going to the last second. I'm going to build in some buffer and say you have to say Shema by midnight. So when you ask this question of is he being crazy strict? No, it's his interpretation of the word, which actually might fit better in the word. It's as you're going to lie down, which is what you said. Okay, so the Gemara is going to explain that this doesn't have to do with you say Shema when you go to sleep. You know why it's like impossible? Well, what the Gemara is going to say is we're talking about general people. And you have truck drivers who are doing the night shift. Do they say the Shema of the night during the day? No. We need to establish times, which is what our Mishnah is doing. It's picking markers. It's not going to be each individual person does it at their own individual time. The Gemara is understanding that the Torah is defining times, and those times will be the same forever. Okay? All right. Correct. This is a Shema. Very good. Very good. I'll get into that momentarily. Okay? Kriyat Shema L'Mita is a different thing. This is the Shema Yisrael that we say as part of our Arvit. Exactly. Very good, Ilan. Okay, let me just show this on the screen. I'll sit down so you guys who are looking at the monitor can see this. This is something I picked up off the internet. I would give credit, but they don't put their name, so I can't. Sorry. So look at the way they show this. Over here on the right, they called Netz HaChama. Netz HaChama on the right side, I could probably even like mark this up. Netz HaChama on the right side is what's called sunrise. If you want to know what time is sunrise, you just look it up on Google. Just type in Google, Great Neck, sunrise, the date. It tells you the date. That's what we call Netz HaChama. It's the rising of the sun. That's the time where if you were looking at the horizon, you could actually see the ball of the sun above the horizon. Okay, the moment that you see that orange ball coming up above the horizon, has anyone ever stayed up all night to see the Netzach Hama? Okay, we'll do it as a group one night. Okay, one night, we'll do it. We'll have the shiur outside and we'll watch Netzach Hama one night. When you see the ball come up, that moment is called Netzach Hama. But the truth is, you already start seeing light in the skies before that. Did you know that? The moment of sunrise is when you see the sun. But even before that, and over an hour before, the black of the sky starts turning into a lighter gray, and then a lighter blue, and then you see the sun comes up, and then you could already start seeing before sunrise. The moment when you could start seeing, the sun itself isn't above the horizon, but the rays of the sun are. You're able to start seeing from the rays of the sun. That's called Alot HaShachar, or dawn. And that's the time that Rabban Gamliel is telling us is the end of Shema, of the night. The end of Shema night is Alot HaShachar. It's dawn. For now, let's call it, for simplicity, 72 minutes before sunrise. So look at the right of the screen. Okay, you see how they make a flat line? Flat line, let's call it the horizon. When the sun comes above this flat line on the right side, the moment the sun breaches that horizon line, that's Netzach Hama, or sunrise. But already from this angle, when it's at an angle below the horizon, that's 72 minutes worth of time. There's an angle below the horizon. At that moment, you could already start seeing the light. That's called Alot HaShachar. Yashi Aleh Amud HaShachar. That's what we were calling dawn in our Mishnah. Similarly, you have that on the opposite end. Again, there's different opinions. Right now, we're going according to the opinion of the Gra. The Shkiat HaChama is the moment that the sun, the ball of the sun, goes below the horizon. So when you're watching the ball of the sun, and it's going, and it becomes orange, you can see it, and then boom, it's gone. That moment is known as Shkiat HaChama. Or, in English, sunset. Very good. But there's still light outside. You can still see light for quite some time. The moment that the sun passes all the way such that it becomes dark, that we call that Se'et HaKochavim, that the stars come out, that you can start seeing the stars enough that it's considered night, is called Se'et HaKochavim, or nightfall. Those are, I'm not defining my terms. So, looking at this, what did we say about Se'et HaKochavim in our Mishnah? Very good. You could start saying Shema of Arvit at Se'et HaKochavim. What else happens at Se'et HaKochavim? Kohanim, Mr. Rani Aziz is allowed to eat his truma. Okay? Those are the things that you could do at Se'et HaKochavim. And now, also, what did we say about Alot HaShachar in our Mishnah? Very good. What did you say? Okay. Very good. That is the last time that you could say Shema of night, which is what you said. It's the end of the Shema at nighttime. There's two other things we learned that you could do up until then, according to Rabban Gamliel. Burning the fats and the limbs of all of the sacrifices that brought in the korban. You could finish it up. You have to finish it up all night. You have until dawn. And there was one more thing. Very good. There are certain offerings, certain sacrifices that you have to eat, and there's a time limit. And sometimes the time limit is the night. You do it up until this Se'et HaKochavim, this line over here. And by the way, you could see there's terms given in English for this. That term of Alot HaShachar is dawn. Then this straight line is called sunrise. Then opposite end is called sunset. And this other Se'et HaKochavim is what we call dusk. The area in between in English is what's called twilight. Called twilight. We will have different terms for this time period, but these time periods are topic of discussion that there's no end. What happens? Is that considered day? Is it considered night? What happens if something happens here and you're not sure? We're going to discuss all of this at length. That's what the topic of Gemara Berachot, a lot of it discusses these times. Okay? Now, good. Any questions? There was one more thing I wanted to show. I have one more picture here. Oh, okay. Look at this. Again, this one it's from timeanddate.com. Okay. I don't know who that is, but They got a good website. So this website, they're showing it on one end. This line right here is the horizon. You can see they have an arrow with the sun, and when it breaches this horizon line, that is what they call sunrise. You can see they write it very nicely. This is a very nice depiction. And then down here, when it's very dark, they call it night. In the middle is what's called twilight. But what they're saying is complicated, is that there's different twilights depending on who you're talking to, which scientists you're talking to. There's a civil twilight, because when you're talking about certain terms of civil, they have their twilight. There's nautical twilight. Nautical is for the people who are the sailors, the ones in the boats. They have a different twilight because they could see things differently than other people who are on land. Me and you don't really care about the light as much as they do. And then there's the astronomical twilight. Those are the things that if you're looking up at the sky, you could see things in a different way. So each discipline of science has their own definition. But for our point, that area in between is something that we're going to discuss. This area is, the last one is what you would call alot hashachar. Okay, good? Good? Good. Okay, very good question. So when the Gemara is going to talk about, so Ilan's question is, why did you pick these? So very simple answer is that Rabban Gamliel is giving us examples. It's just giving us examples of things that Chachamim would say until Chatzot, but really he's arguing is the whole night long. It's just examples. The same with telling us about the time of the Kohanim, just another example so that you could learn more material. We'll get into the Gemara is going to teach us that. The Gemara is going to expand and ask this question. Okay, it's a very good Gemara because it asks the basic questions. Okay, good. Now let me just speak about Shema Yisrael. The Shema Yisrael that we're talking about now is a fulfillment of the Shema Yisrael that you have to do at nighttime. Rashi asks a question. Rashi here asks a very important question. He says, time out. Shema Yisrael that I have to say at nighttime begins from Seta Kochavim. Seder Kochavim tonight, I'm just going to give you the answer. Seder Kochavim tonight was around, 8:45. Did anyone pray Arvit yet? What time did you pray Arvit? 7:30 you prayed Arvit. So Mr. Gabriel Zarbaveli said Shema Yisrael before the time that he's allowed to. Okay, very good. So he's the Sadiq. He just says Shema more than he has to. But this is what we're saying in our Mishnah, which we will define all of this. There's one more disclaimer I have to give, and I'll say it after I go through this. The Shema Yisrael, the Mishnah tells us the starting time of Shema Yisrael is when the Tzeit HaKochavim, when the stars come out. I'm telling you today, if you look at the calendar, it's like around 8:50, 8:45, 8:50. So that time, 8:50, if you sing Shema before then, it's too early. By the way, I used to travel a lot. I was once in Atlanta. Tzedek Kochavim in Atlanta was in the summertime. I went in June. It was 10 p.m. It's crazy because it's more south. I guess probably Miami is like that now. I don't know. Probably. Anyone here just came from Miami? No. France was what? They're more south. 11 p.m. Unbelievable. So here's the question. Did Gabriel Zarbaveli fulfill his mitzvah of Shema Yisrael of Arvit? The answer is not yet, because the time didn't start yet. So what is he supposed to do? So this is what Rashi tells us. You have to say Shema Yisrael again after the time. You have to say the Shema Yisrael again. You could say it with all of the Berachot, and you could say it in the Arvit, you could say the Amidah, you could say all of that. But you need to say Shema Yisrael again. Now, Rashi is giving you a shortcut. He says, you could either open your Siddur and say it again, or if you want, you could say it when you go to sleep. Because there is something in the Siddur called Shema Yisrael al Amitah. Raise of hands. Who says the Shema Yisrael al Amitah? Oh, wow. Okay, so does my 1-year-old. So it's not that special. But okay, good for you. He actually helped us. No. He goes like this. I'll tell you what my 1-year-old does. He puts his hand on like this and he goes, He can't talk, but he knows that he's saying a word at a time. He's getting there. Shai could do it. Shai could say the whole V'ahavta with the Ta'amim. But not V'haya. Okay, so why am I saying this? Because there is something called Kriyat Shema al Amitah, to say Shema before you go to sleep. Before you go to sleep, you say Shema Yisrael. So Rashi says you that works. But if you're going to do that, Mr. Zarbaveli, if you're going to use that Shema, Rashi says you have to say not just Shema Yisrael, Shema Echad, Baruch Shem. you also have to say the whole paragraph ve'ahavta. And there's other opinions that says, no, you need to say all three paragraphs. If you want to use Shema Yisrael al Amitah to fulfill your mitzvah of saying Shema, so you got to say the whole thing. And that's really what ideally you should do. So I don't know. Okay, now I'm going to ask one more question. People who said they say Shema Yisrael al Amitah, how many of you say all three paragraphs? Oh, okay, everyone. Okay, almost everyone.
That's not Shema Yisrael al Amitah. If you look it up in the Siddur, it doesn't show you all three paragraphs.
In my Siddur, it does. I don't know, you're using Ashkenazi Siddur, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing.
Doesn't say that the short part is Shema Yisrael.
You start with, say it again?
You say the anger that's actually.
Yeah, very good. So Rama, maybe that's what you're talking about. If you said the three paragraphs of Shema after nightfall, you did your mitzvah of Shema, then Shema Yisrael al Amitah, you could just say Shema Yisrael, even be'afta. Why, what does your Siddur say? Okay, so it's a matter of, this is what Rashi is teaching us, that you're going to be using this to fulfill your mitzvah, and others say that you really, Rashi says one paragraph is enough. Oh, I am right? Okay. Okay, all right, very good. Let's see, it's 9:24. Okay. All right, so we just did our first Mishnah. Oh, okay, sorry, one thing I have to say. Here's a big disclaimer. Okay, I hope everyone is following. Again, we're moving at a slower pace than we normally would, because I want to make sure that we're defining our terms. We just went through our first Mishnah. One thing, Mr. Levian, really, when you asked your question, it got me thinking. I need to give a disclaimer. As you go through a Mishnah and as you go through Gemara, if you leave now and say, well, this is not what I'm going to do, it's like leaving in the middle of a movie, assuming that you know the end of the movie. The system of halacha follows: you learn a Mishnah, you analyze the Mishnah, you read the Gemara analyzes the Mishnah, and then after that, there are different opinions on how we conclude in practice. Sometimes the Gemara is not going to tell you what you have to do. Then we have to go to the Rambam, which they very often in our shiur we'll look at what the Rambam says. We're going to have to look at Shulchan Aruch, see what he says. We look at what Rav Ovadia Yosef says, and throughout the class, we can't do it all on the first day, but throughout the class, we will be learning Rambams. We will be learning Shulchan Aruch. We will be getting ourselves acquainted to the system of halacha to the extent that you don't look at one line of the Mishnah and say, now I know this is what I have to do. No. It's premature. We're not there yet. We learn the Mishnah, we analyze it. Then we learn the Gemara's analyzation of the Mishnah, we analyze it. And then we see what the halacha is. And even with the halacha, there's different opinions. So the Ashkenazim, Sfaradim are going to hold like different things. This one, I could tell you now, we hold the middle opinion like Chachamim, that you should say Shema until midnight. And you can't say it until Amud HaShachar in a situation where someone forgets or is unable to, the way Rabban Gamliel advises kids. So this is something that we'll do. I want to make sure that we're going to tonight focus, but we're going to spend time studying halacha as well. So don't leave here and say, well, now I know what the halacha is. That's not how the system works. Very often, something you learn in the Mishnah, we don't practice that way. Okay? So we have to study each case by itself. Okay, good. Shall we begin our first Gemara also? Okay, let me share the screen again. We have a few more minutes. I want to just get us started with the Gemara, and then we'll stop. I don't want to do too much, but I also want to get us started with the Gemara. So we just finished our first passage of Mishnah. We're now going to look at the Gemara. So if you're looking at the screen, now this is where it says Gimel Mem, that's short for Gemara. Again, this Gemara is an explanation, or it's expounding on our Mishnah. So the Gemara starts off this first question and says, okay, hold on a second. How did the Mishnah start? What was the first word of the Mishnah? Someone tell me, what was the first word that the Mishnah asked us? Me'ematai. What does me'ematai mean? From when? From when what? From when do we start reading Shema? The Gemara says, listen, slow down. You know what? If I were reading the Mishnah, you know how I would say it? I would say, not rule number one, you have to say Shema Yisrael. You should say it at nighttime. You should say it at daytime. There's a starting time for it, and there's an ending time for it. And now I'll go ahead and ask, when is the starting time? It's nightfall. When is the ending time? Three-way machloket, three different opinions. But that's not what the Gemara Mishnah does. The Mishnah says, oh, what time should I start? Should I start what? Slow down. This is the way you're going to start a book? This is what the Gemara is going to ask us right now. Look, Tana, our author, Hecha Ka'eh. What is he referring back to? Where is he starting off? Diktani me'ematai, that he starts the quote of his Mishnah. From when do I start? If you start saying, from when do I start? It sounds like I missed a page. It sounds like there was something before that. What are you talking about? That you start off your book by saying, and what time should I start? Should I start what? So that's what the Gemara asks. And I have another question. My other question the Gemara asks, my Shana, the Tani, the Arvit Beresha. Systematically, if you were going to start a book of Mishnah and you're going to start, you should start with the morning. The day starts in the morning, no? It's a new day. It starts off in a nice, fresh way. Sunny morning, sunshine. Start off with the mitzvah of the day. This is the way the Ritva explains it. Ritva explains this question of, when you start a question, you don't start with night, you start with day. You don't start with dark, you start with light. That's the way the Ritva expands this question. But essentially he's saying, why do you start at nighttime? Number one, well, you're just coming out of left field. And number two, so you want to talk about Shema. There's a Shema at night, Shema at day. Why don't you start with the Shema of day first? Teach the timing of Shacharit first, of the Shema of the morning first. So the Gemara says, I'll give you an answer. I'll give you one answer that's going to answer both your questions in one shot. Tana Akarakae. Our author of our Mishnah is referring to the Pasuk in Shema Yisrael. He's assuming you know the Shema Yisrael. And he's assuming that you know that in the Shema Yisrael, Dichtiv, B'shoch becha, uvkumecha. You should read the Shema B'shoch becha when you're lying down, uvkumecha when you're getting up. This line of the Gemara is answering both questions in one shot. The first question was, where are you coming from out of left field expecting me to know this? The Gemara answer is, yeah, B'shoch becha uvkumecha. I expect that if you're studying this, you know the Shema Yisrael. I expect that you know that the Torah requires you to say Shema Yisrael at night and when you lie down, when you get up. And then your second question is, why did I start at the night? I'm following the pasuk. What does the pasuk say? B'shoch becha, when you lie down, uvkumecha, when you get up. So which one should I start with? The one of the night. So by saying this one thing, you're answering both questions. V'hachi ketani. This is what the author is saying. Zman Kiryat Shema, the shechiva emat. The time of Kiryat Shema, of when you're lying down, the nighttime one, emat, when does it begin? And that's where the Gemara answers, the time at which the Kohanim enter to eat the terumah. Okay? So our Mishnah starts by saying, what time should I start the night Shema? And he's like, slow down. He's like, no, slow down. Oh, June, my 1-year-old knows how to say Shema Yisrael. I'm not going to slow down. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about B'shoch becha uvkumecha. You have to say Shema when you lie down, when you get up. And that's the order that I'm going to follow. Then I'm going to talk about the night one first. By the way, there is an opinion, I forgot who it was, but one opinion says, why he starts off with the Shema Yisrael of nighttime, or why this actually starts off all of Shas, is because when someone becomes bar mitzvah, when someone turns 13 years old and becomes bar mitzvah, what is the first mitzvah that they are required to do? Mitzvah Shema Yisrael. Because when it becomes night, he becomes a man. And when it becomes night, he has to read Shema. So the first mitzvah that a person will be required to do as a bar mitzvah person is the Shema Yisrael. That's what you're entering into. So because of that, you start off with the Shema Yisrael of night. Okay, let me cover some ground, and we'll open up for questions soon. Now the Gemara says, I answered your question already by saying B'shoch becha uvkumecha, but I want to give you one more answer, just for something to think about, because there's something important here. Your question was, why didn't you start with the Shema of the day? Start with Shema of the Shacharit and then go to Shema of Arvit. I just want to teach you something right now. In Judaism, the day starts at night. Be'ibait ema, a second answer, additional answer is Yalif mibriato shel olam. When our Mishnah was structured to teach about the Shema of night first, it's following creation of the world. Dichtiv, as the Torah says, Vayerev, Vayiboker, Yom Echad. It was night, it was day, that was the end of the first day. So actually, you should be starting with the night. When your Mishnah starts with night, and you ask, hey, how come you start with night, start with the day? So he gives two answers. He says, number one, I'm following the Pasuk, and lying down comes first, so I'll start with the night. Number two, the Jewish day starts at nighttime. right? This is something we know, but it's saying it right here on the first page of Shas. Okay. Let's do 2 more lines, and then we'll pause. Ihachi, the Gemara says, okay, hold on. Now I want to see if your statement is consistent. So we don't know this yet, but I'll explain. Let me just give you outside what the next couple of Mishnayot are. Okay, sorry for the standing and sitting. I hope it keeps you awake. So first Mishnah of our book that we go through talks about the times of Shema at night. The next Mishnah talks about the times of Shema at the day. The next Mishnah talks about the brachot that we say before and after Shema of the day. The next Mishnah talks about the brachot that we say before and after Shema at night. You get it? So times of Shema at night, times of Shema at day. Brachot of Shema in the day, brachot of Shema at night. So it says, okay, hold on a second. I asked you, why did you start at the night? And you gave me 2 answers. You said, oh, well, it follows the pasuk. The Torah says, when you lie down first. So I'm going to talk about the night first. Okay, but when you talk about the blessings that you have to say before and after it, you started with the day first. Or you're going to tell me, oh, you're following creation of the world. Creation of the world starts with night and then goes to day. Okay, but when you start talking about the brachot of Shema, you start with the day first. Can anyone give me an answer? You tell me what you think the answer might be. Sorry? It's not Shema anymore, but it's the brachot that are flanking around the Shema. We say, okay. Another answer? Very good. So the Gemara is going to give this answer. The Gemara says, and it's also very important too. The Gemara doesn't give your answer. The Gemara says, we're still talking about Shema, but the Gemara says, I'll explain to you why. Because do you remember when these Mishnayot were recorded? Okay, they're also said, as I said before, they were recorded. These were discussions that people were having verbally. They were discussions that people were having orally. It is easier to follow the flow of, I'll talk about the times of Shema at night, times of Shema in the day. While I'm talking about the day, I'll not talk about the brachot of the day, and then I'll circle back and talk about the night. In other words, there's like this A, B, B, A format. A is night, B is day. So I'm talking about the night, then I talk about the day. While I'm talking about the day, I'll finish up my topic of the day, and then I'll go back to what I forgot about and talk to you about the brachot of the night. That's what the Gemara is going to say, what this is introducing to us is that often the Mishnayot are written in ways for you to remember them. Ways for you to remember the order, for you to follow the flow. Let's read it, and then we'll stop there, okay? Ihachi, if that's the case, that you should start with the night. Seifa diktani, the next part of the Mishnah that says, Bashachar, in the morning, mivarech shtaim lefanea, you make 2 blessings before it, ve'achad la'acharea, 1 blessing after it. We're going to talk about this soon when we get up to that Mishnah. But for now, suffice it to say that you have brachot to say before Shema and after Shema, you have to say brachot. We're going to define all of this. In the morning, you say 2 brachot before, 1 bracha after. And in the night, you say 2 brachot before, 2 brachot after. So the question now is not about the content. The question is about the structure. Why are you talking about the day and then the night if when we started off our book, we start off with the night and then the day? So the Gemara says, teach the night first. And the Gemara gives you the answer I just gave you. Tana patach ba'arvit. Our author opened up and began talking about arvit. V'hadar tani b'shacharit. Then he moved and spoke about the morning. And while he's talking about the morning, the times of the Shema in the morning, parish milei de shacharit, he completes and discusses all of the details of the morning, which means the brachot you have to say in the morning. V'hadar parish milei de arvit. And then he goes and he finishes off and explains the details of the arvit, of the Shema of arvit, which is brachot you have to say before and after. We're going to get into all of that now, but this is not a question about content, it's a question about structure. The Gemara, you have to know what questions the Gemara is asking you. That right now, that's what it's talking about now. Okay, I'm going to do a quick recap of tonight's Gemara, but as I do my recap, I need your help. Okay, can you help me? Okay, by the way, this is right now, I'm doing this for me, I'm not doing it for you. Every time I study Torah, at the end of it, I try to just reserve 2 minutes, just go through what I did. Why? To try to hone in the skills, to try to commit this to memory. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to show you my personal practice, and we're going to do it together. Our Mishnah starts off by telling us there's really three parts to our Mishnah, if you will. The first part of our Mishnah is asking us a question. What's the question of our first part of our Mishnah? Correct. From what time do you start saying Shema at night? What's the answer the Mishnah gives? No. Yes, you're already talking about the next part for the end time. The start time, our Mishnah gives us one opinion. The time that the Kohanim entered to eat their Truma, which we defined as Tzeit HaKochavim. The Gemara will tell us that is nightfall. That's the start time of Shema. Okay? Next part of our Mishnah is end time of our Mishnah. And what is the end time of our Mishnah? Machloket. Machloket means a disagreement. How many opinions are there? Three. So what are the three opinions? First opinion is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. He says until the first third of the night. Very good. And that's what in his terms, he calls it the end of the first watch or the end of the first shift. Okay? Atzofa Hashmara Rishona. That's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. What's the second opinion? Who says it? Chachamim. What do they say? Until midnight, until Chatzot. What's the third? Who's the third opinion? Rabban Gamliel. What does he say? Until dawn, until Amud HaShachar. Very good. Ashi Alei Amud HaShachar. And now the third part of our Mishnah is the story. The story is with the children of Rabban Gamliel, and they come home from a wedding. They come home very late. They come home past what time? Past midnight. And they ask their dad, say, Dad, we know you say that you could say Shema until the end of the night, until dawn. But that's not the law of the rabbis. We want to follow the rabbis, what the majority of people are saying. Well, we passed it, we missed it. So what should we do? What does he tell them? He says, you can say it the whole night. And I'm not just telling you this because I'm waving my own flag. This is actually what Chachamim hold also, that you could say it all night long. What are you talking about, Dad? They argue with you. They say until Chatzot. What does Rabban Gamliel say? Very good. The rabbis agree with me, says Rabban Gamliel, that you could say Shema until dawn, but they're building in a buffer. That buffer is so that you don't come to forget saying Shema. So they say, look, make your deadline midnight. It makes sense. It makes sense to build in some buffer, especially for the procrastinators within us. If I told you could say Shema until that time, you don't know. Okay, I just need to say this for a second. We put out forms for selling out chametz. The forms are out like a month in advance. Okay, a month in advance. There's a reminder: sell your chametz, sell your chametz. Fill out the form, sell your chametz. 3 o'clock in the afternoon before Pesach, I get a phone call. Rabbi, what can I fill out this form? Fill out what form? You've been doing this for a month. Pesach is in 2 hours. What are you going to go buy matzah right now? You're completely at the last second. They're getting ready. This is why Chachamim said we need to put in deadlines. This is with the deadlines. We write very clearly the last time we are accepting your forms is Thursday night, and it's Sunday. They're saying, hey, I need to fill out a form right now. Where can I fill out a form? So these deadlines are good tools. So our Mishnah tells us that they agree that you can do it until dawn. Not just that, not just Shema Yisrael. There's 2 other examples. What are the 2 other examples given in our Mishnah? Eating certain korbanot, you can eat all night long. Very good. Burning the fats and limbs in the Beit HaMikdash, there's a whole burning process. You could really do it all night long, even though they get it done by midnight. And they introduce this to us so that we have a deadline to make sure we don't sin. And then we have the Gemara, and the Gemara now asks us a question. What was the question the Gemara asks us?
Why do you start with the nine?
Okay, very good. That's the second question. The Gemara's question is, what are you talking about? You're coming in and you're telling me, from when do I say Shema? First start with telling me you say Shema. Why do you start with the question of from when do I start saying Shema? You never taught the law to say Shema. That's my first question. Second question, why do you start with the night and not start with the day? So the Gemara answers both questions with one answer. With one stone, you get 2 rocks. You get 2 birds with, okay, what is it? They give 2 answers, 2 questions with one answer. What is the answer? I'm coming off the pasuk of the Torah, which you already know, that says you have to say Shema when you lie down, when you get up. That's those are the times, and I'm following that flow by doing the night and then the day. And the Gemara says, and about the night day thing, I have a second answer. What's the second answer? By Erev Boker, you're following Briyato Shel Olam, the creation of the world. Okay? And then the Gemara says, oh, okay, now you became this person that you start with night and day, but I have a problem. The next Mishnah, when you're talking about the Berachot of Shema, what do? I have an answer for you. It just hit me right now. But yeah, the next Mishnah, when you start with the Berachot of Shema, you start with Shacharit and not Arvit. So Ilan gave us an answer. Ilan said, I'll tell you why, because we're not talking about Shema Yisrael anymore. I'll start with night and go to day. Otherwise, I'll go to my default. I'll start with day and night. But Ilan, the Gemara gave us a second answer. What was the second answer? Briyato Shel Olam. Briyato Shel Olam, when the way the world was created, you start with night. So telling me this is not Shema, this is Berachot of Shema, I still have another problem. Doesn't follow the way the creation of the world. I should start with night. So that's why the Gemara gives this other answer. The Gemara's other answer that it gives us is, you're right, you should start with night, but it's just an easier flow. I start with night, I get to the day, finish the details of the day, and go back to the night, which is how the Gemara answers. I hope you understand that in 4 minutes, we just went through our entire Mishnah Gemara without even looking once. We just went through the whole thing. This is good practice. When you learn something, go back and review it. And if you can't do it, it's okay. You have the books, you review it, and we have time. Be'ezrat Hashem, I think we're gonna stop here. One last thing I'll say is we will have recordings on YouTube and voice recordings if you need them, but there's nothing like coming in person. If you have to go on the recording, no offense to anyone who's on the Zoom, we love you all, and you're always welcome to join the Zoom. But I'm just saying, I know for myself, there's nothing like being present in the room. There's no distractions. You're staying, you're focused, and I think that's the best way to learn. But we do have this as an option. Again, I'm very happy to have started with everyone. If you have any feedback, let us know. Yes, Itai said something important about the books. So we have, Baruch Hashem, we have these R-Scroll Gemarot that were sponsored for the shiur, and the sponsor is okay with people taking them, but the I guess the condition is you got to be committed. So what I'm going to ask of you is, don't take the Gemarot yet. Leave the Gemara here, and if you come in person for 2, 3, 4 weeks, then you get your own Gemara, you take it, it's free. It's sponsored for you to study Torah for our class. If we need more, we'll get more. We could get more if we need to. So, but for now, unless you tell me you're committed. If you're committed, that you're saying that you're going to take it, you could already take it tonight. So if you're already committed, you know you're in, go ahead and take the Gemara. We'll stop here. Have a great night, everyone. Take care, everyone.